Hello, my friends. Welcome to Pro Strings. I'm Henriette, and I'm delighted to teach your live class for you today. It's lovely to see that some people are already here. Welcome. I'm just going to hang on a little bit before we get started so that we offer a few more people the opportunity to join us. In the meantime, I would like to welcome you, of course, and I'd like to know a little bit about your playing, because I assume that you are learning the violin on YouTube, but I would like to know from you whether you are exclusively learning on YouTube. That means that you're only using YouTube videos and you haven't got an outside teacher, or whether you have a mix of following some YouTube videos and you have a teacher on the side. So I'm going to put my question into the comments section, and you might answer that and take part in this poll. I'm just interested to know a little bit more about my clients that join me here. So let me know if you learn exclusively on YouTube or whether you have got your own teacher as well. Now, whilst we're still waiting for a few people to come in, I'll tell you a little bit about the format of this class, and you may well have been here before. I've done a couple of these live sessions before the summer holidays, and here we are again. In this class, you can ask any violin-related question. Obviously, we want comments to be courteous and respectful, and I will answer the questions as they come in. If you feel that you haven't, and you can use the chat box on the side of your screen to ask your questions. If you feel that I forget you, which might well happen, because last time we had like question after question coming in, and I'm doing my very best to answer the questions. But if you want to highlight your question, you can press one of the emojis at the bottom of your chat box. If you like to put just an emoji down to indicate your mood, whether you like it or you don't like it, then you can click on the little face. If you feel like you want to purchase from YouTube a super sticker or a super chat, these are paid services that YouTube offers, so that your comment gets pinned to the top, hoping that I might see it earlier. And so you can use those, super sticker or super chat. And if you feel that you want to support this channel, I should be very, very grateful. Obviously, I want to keep these classes free for everyone, but if you are in a position to support the channel and support these live classes, I can do more of them. The best way is to simply go on PayPal and use info@proamstrings.com. I'll just write it in the text box now. .com, and you can make your donation there. So I should be very grateful, and it means that I can do more of this if you support this channel. So I'm going to say hello to David, who has just joined us, and that is great news, David. David writes, I just got my violin 3 days ago. Obviously, you're in the right place. Well done. And hopefully I can answer some of your questions. So it would be interesting as well, and we can use that as an opportunity to get familiar with the chat box and for us to get going. If you write down where in the world you are, because another class that we did, we have people literally from every continent. So I'll set you all off, and I'm in Norwich in the UK. So it would be really, really lovely to see where you all are. Let's see if we can get people from America. Let's see if we can get people from Australia. Hang on a second. There we are. Let's see if we can get people from Europe. Romania. Hello, Romania. Okay. Hello, Richard. Good to see you. Very nice that you keep these comments coming. David has asked the first question. So that is, hello there, KHVIP87. Welcome to this class. David has asked the question, what progress should I expect from my 1 month of online violin learning? That is a very good question, because we don't know when we learn something new how quickly that will start to develop, do we? I think if you start to bow, it depends on how much you practice, obviously, isn't it? But if you play a little bit every day, you can expect that you can play with a fairly clean bowing, making a very clear sound in about a month's time. If you put a little bit more time in, then you might be able to become more comfortable with the left hand and start using the fingers. And that is about it. So if you get to tune your violin, make a nice sound bowing on the open strings, just beginning to play your left hand fingers, you're doing absolutely great. And when you first start learning to play the violin, you will find that just holding up the instrument is quite tiring already, okay? So start with very short periods of time, 5 minutes, until you feel your shoulders or your arms begin to feel tired. Then take a break. And you might later on that day have practice for another 5 minutes and maybe another 5 minutes. Obviously, that will increase your progress and you will go faster. But you'll find that there is a limit to how much you can do each day in the very early stages. Because you will feel very tired. You get used to that and you will build stamina. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. But and that is how life as a violin player develops. So let me have a quick look at the next of the chat box. North Carolina. Hello from Jordan. Wow, wow, wow. That's really nice. Hello, Angie in Dorchester. But you also followed me in France. It's lovely to see you back. Oh no, I am disappointed. We'll stop learning violin, somebody else is saying. Can you please explain why that is? Is that too slow progress for you? I'm interested to find out. For those of you who've just joined us, there is a poll at the top of this list. I'm just interested to find out whether you learn exclusively on YouTube or whether you have a teacher on the side. So if you go and answer that question, I should be very happy. Hello, Linda. Good to see you here again. You've been here before as well, haven't you? I've been learning for 2 months and I took a break for a month. I feel I forgot my lessons. Should I continue or start over? Hello, Asma. Thank you for that comment. That is a very good one, actually. I've been learning for 2 months, Asma said. Then I took a break for a month. I feel I forgot my lessons. Should I continue or start over? I think if you have only played it for a month, you will find that when you restart it, you will move much more quickly the second time. First of all, you will already have strengthened your muscles, so it will be less tiring to play. You will start to remember, even though on your first day of restarting to play, you might not remember everything, but that will come back after 2 or 3 days. Just give it another go. And I'm hoping that you will find it's a lot easier the second time round and it goes much quicker. Someone else says the progress is slow. I make a lot of mistakes after learning for 1 month. And that is a fair comment. And that is all right. When we play the violin, playing the violin is quite challenging. Learning to drive a car is much easier than playing the violin to any advanced level. So it's okay if you make a lot of mistakes after 1 month of learning. We all do that. I did that as well in my first month of lessons. So don't be surprised if it takes a little bit longer. What violin playing does to you, it teaches you commitment. It teaches you concentration skills. It teaches you perseverance. And I think whilst you might find that your progress on the violin is very slow, getting all these other benefits, all those points that I've just mentioned, is a really, really good general thing to have in life. If you feel that you're not too upset with a slight setback and you manage to keep on going on the violin, you might find that in other areas of your life that might happen as well. So, Aravinda, hello, welcome to this channel here. You're a newbie and you're learning from my videos. Thank you so much, and I'm hoping you're enjoying your videos, the videos. Now, this class is about asking questions that you've come across in your videos. And feel free to write it in the comment section. And before we get started, and I'll come to your question, David, in a moment, some people have dropped some comments below some of the videos, so let me address those straight away. So someone says when they play, they have difficulty reaching the point of the bow. And a lot of people come across that issue, that you have a difficulty getting to the point of the bow. And I'll show you, if that happens to you, what you can do about that. And this class is very much about finding sort of general things that people come across, and hopefully with a few comments, I can help you further along your learning journey. So if you play and you can't get to the point of the bow, I won't play too loudly because the sound isn't always as good. So if you feel that you can't go any further than that, I'd like you to check over your right arm. And you can see that my elbow is way behind my back. Can you see that? So my elbow is in that direction. And if you find you cannot go too far to the point of the bow, I suggest you point your arm forward. So see if you can get your arm further to the front. And that way, I can reach the point of my bow. Now, ideally, my bow should be parallel to the bridge. Can you see that? The bridge is this thing here. Okay, so if you're playing here and you can't reach the point because your bow will fall off the violin like that, see if you can manage by pointing that arm further forward. And I was speaking to a lady who I was teaching yesterday, and she found that she had to really exaggerate that and go much further forward than she thought. So if you have another person in your house or someone who can observe this while you play, because it's very difficult to watch yourself in a mirror and to see it happen, it's just checking for you how parallel you are to the bridge. And if you're even the slightest way slanted like that, you want to stretch your arm further forward and go in that direction. So I'm hoping this may help a few people here. Now, let me go back to the chat box and see what's come in since I last looked at it. Can I also share notes in PDF? Oh, no, I forget one. David, your question. What time should I change my strings? Very good point. Very good point. Strings, it depends a little bit on what kind of strings that you have, but they do go old in that they don't vibrate as nicely and as freshly anymore after some length of time. If you play an average amount of time, you might change your strings once every 1.5 years or 2 years, or when they start to discolor. Most strings, if you look at my strings here, most strings look silvery, don't they? But after a while, when strings start to oxidize, especially when you play on metal strings, they go gold colored, and that is the time to replace your strings. If you are a player who plays hours and hours a day, obviously you'll need to replace your strings more often. Now, I play all day, every day. And I replace my strings about once a year. So no more than that, I would say. But there's always a but in violin playing. Strings can go out of tune. So once every so often, I suggest you test the tuning of your violin, because you can probably imagine that if your strings aren't in tune, in other words, if they've lost their stretch and their flexibility and they can't vibrate quite as well, then you trying to play in tune on those strings makes your life a lot harder, doesn't it? So how do we test that? And I'm going to see if that works. I'm just going to pluck one of my strings, and what I'd like you to watch is the expanse of the string. So if I do that, perhaps you can see the string vibrate. Okay. Now let me see. I'll do that again. So your string should expand out and then go straight back in. Now this one is not entirely perfect, because if I have a good look, and in a second I will show you again, you can see the string vibrate out, back halfway, and then out again. So have a really good look. Can you see there is a little wow into this string? So I'm going to keep an eye on my G string now that I know that, because if that gets any worse, I need to replace it. Let's test the G string, shall we? So this one also expands, goes in straight away, but it goes in very, very quickly. So I'm going to keep an eye on that as well. This is about right, because I usually change my strings around Christmas time. So it's not too long now before they need replacing. Now, when you replace your strings, make a habit of replacing one by one and not all four at the same time, because new strings will stretch as you tighten them. And it will go out of, a new string will also go out of tune because it is stretching, so it will get flatter. If you have that hassle of retuning your violin on four strings at the same time, that gets quite painful and it's a lot of work. So replace your strings one at a time, play that one in for about 2 weeks or so, and then replace the next string. Let me show you the A string. How does that work? Now this is quite a good one. So it's got quite a good ring, and I can't see any vibrations apart from what I want to see. So it goes out and straight back. And the E string, that's more difficult to see, but this one is also quite good still. Okay, so I'm going to keep an eye on my G and D strings, because they are coming to the end of their life, you see. Remember, if you want to put, someone has already used an emoji there. Thank you for doing that, Asma. If you want to pin your comment to the top, click on the $sign, but in your chat box, and you get the option of super stickers and super chats. And that is a YouTube generated thing. If you want to support this channel, use PayPal, please, and go on info@proamstrings.com. All right. So, can I also share notes in PDF is the question. Sometimes I can, and when I can, I will do that. Quite a lot of the time, the books that we use are copyrighted, so I cannot do that. I can teach you from the books, okay? But I'd be breaking the law if I shared PDFs or shared photos of my music. So you can say, oh, that is really nasty because now we can't use it. But at the end of the day, we're all shooting ourselves in the foot if we share music that is copyrighted. And why is that? If we stop buying music, and I totally get it if you say, I can't afford to buy music. And that is, there are some free music websites that you can find on the internet. But if we all stop buying music, all the music publishers would go out of business, and we would not have any access to any new music. So bear that in mind when you copy music or when you use downloads from the internet, that eventually the more people do that, we will actually all become poorer for it, you see. So I'm hoping that answers your question, Aravinda. So whenever I can, and music is not copyrighted, or I've just done this course, Violin Class for Beginners, Crickborn. There are 2 editions of the book, and they're not exactly the same. So if I want to teach the whole of this book, sometimes I have to share a copy, and you'll find links to the downloads of that music, you see. KHVIP87, thank you for your question. Which should go first, learning to read notes or learning to bow? That is a very interesting question. And in my view, it should be the latter, so learning to bow. Because learning to bow will help you be able to play the notes once you've learned to read them. So learn to bow first, and you might do it without music, just with me on the video, and then you'll start to read music, and you will then find that reading and playing is easily combined, because if you did it the other way around, you learned the notes and then couldn't bow them, you wouldn't be able to play them, you see. So, David, what year is your violin? I assume that you mean, when was my violin made? Is that what you mean? My violin was made in, no, I don't know now, 1981, 84, 86, 1985. And I play on a modern violin. And I'll tell you a little story how that came about, because I think it's quite a nice story. I was at Conservatoire. You can just see how long ago that is. I was at Conservatoire, and my teacher said, "You're now so advanced at violin playing, you need a better quality instrument." And I was looking for instruments. I was thinking about what I would like. I was looking for a certain mellow and sweet sound, and a violin which was not too loud. And I couldn't find it anywhere. And my teacher, who used to play in a professional string quartet, he used to be playing on a Guadagnini violin, which is a very, very expensive violin, like a Stradivarius, but then another Italian make. And that violin, that Guadagnini, was owned by an old lady. And at some point she died, and the family said, "We need the instrument back because we're going to sell the instrument, and that is our inheritance from our old mother who has died." So unfortunately, my teacher had to give the violin back because it was to be sold. And there was a violin maker at that time who was a good friend of theirs, and he said, "I'm going to make a whole quartet of 2 violins, a viola and a cello, so that all your instruments in your quartet will fit together really nicely." So he made the violins, and the viola and the cello, and the quartet played on it for quite a while. But he said, "I'm going to make a new first violin because the violin is too bright, or it's too soft." I can't remember exactly what it was. So he made a new one for my teacher, and then I got to play on this one because that was the violin that the maker had made for him, you see. So it was just the sound that I had in mind. So I was very, very lucky. So 1985 is the year of my violin. Here's another comment by David. "As I told you, I got your violin 3 days ago, and the E string has a little green plastic thing where it sits on the bridge regarding the tune. It is good because I use an app, but I should I leave that there?" Yes, you should leave it there. And I'll show you. I've got a little plastic thingy there as well. You say yours is green. Can you see that there? Now, an E string is very, very thin. And a bridge is made from balsa wood, and that is a very soft wood. Now, if you play on metal strings or anything with a metal thread or a silver thread wound around it, which most E strings are, the string can slice through the bridge just like a cheese slicer. And that is why you've got that little plastic thingy, so that it doesn't slide through the bridge, because then eventually if it slices through the bridge, your string will become lower and lower and lower, and at some point you can't play on that E string anymore because it will hit the fingerboard right here. You see, if this string goes lower there, then it will go lower here as well, and you can't play on it anymore, and you have to replace the bridge. So that little plastic thingy is there to protect the bridge. Hello, Stephanie. Nice to see you. Does the thumb also get pressure when pressing the string? Very, very good question. And in a lot of people, the thumb gets a lot of pressure when you press a string. And a lot of people also think that it's a sort of counteraction, isn't it? If you press your finger on the string, that your thumb needs to press. But actually, what happens when you press a string and when you press your thumb, and you can try that for yourself, if you do this with your thumb, you can feel that here it gets really, really hard. The muscle here, the base of your thumb, gets really tight. And then if you try to do that with your fingers, it's much harder to do compared with when this is loose and soft. You can move your fingers much better, you see. So if I press with my thumb against the fingerboard here, I have less flexibility in my fingers. And that's just how your hand is made. If there is stress in one of the fingers or in your thumb, the other fingers and your thumb will get more stiff as well. So the nice thing is that if you have your thumb just there and just resting softly here so that the mouth of your hand is nice and soft, it makes your fingers more flexible. Now, how can I do that then? Because as you rightly infer, is that if you press a string, what will happen is that you will have to hold it more with your neck. You have to hold the violin more with your neck. And therefore, you need to have a well-fitting shoulder rest. Okay? So if your shoulder rest fits you nicely, you can hold the violin just with your neck. And look, I can even talk now whilst my violin's just sitting there. So that means that if I play, I've got my thumb there, but it's not doing much there. It's just lying there very loosely, and it doesn't need to counterweight the fingers, you see. And that way I keep my fingers nice and flexible so they can move fast, and you can play much faster if your left thumb is softer. Now, a lot of people, especially beginners, play with some tension in their thumb. And as you progress, you will gradually learn to relax your thumb. But an exercise, it might be, and you might try that at home, is if you have your fingers, if you have your piece of music you play, and if you have a rest, just tap your thumb lightly there, just to check that you're not squeezing it. And it's very often becoming aware of how soft your thumb is, that gradually you learn to play with less tension in your thumb, and in other words, in the mouth of your hand right there. Right, let me see. Hi, Danielle. You're from Canada, and it's lovely to see you here. It's 8:21 there. I'm well impressed. That's early in the morning, isn't it? So really good. Hello, Joe. Nice to see you here. Yesterday, I started with my first finger. Congratulations. That's always a massive milestone when you learn to play with your first finger, and real life as a violinist has started then. So all credit to you for keeping going and playing with your first finger. Wonderful. Good luck with your practice. KHVIP87, thank you very much for purchasing that sticker. That is really nice. Has it got a question with it? Let me just check that because I'm not sure. Okay, no, I don't think so. Oh. All right, now. Okay, hello, Kenji. Nice to see you here, and thank you for your comment there. And in case you haven't read it yet, Kenji asks me, do you know of any good ways to dampen the sound a bit? I can't play full gusto in my apartment with the neighbors and all. Yes, very, very good question. And I'll give you a couple of answers to that. Yes, there are ways to play more softly. There are different types of mutes. In violin land, they're called sourdines, which is the French word for mute, I guess. And some of them are much quieter than others. Now, let me just get a few from my violin case, and I'll show you. Where's my other one? Oh, I can just see two here now. This is a mute that you can have on your strings, and you put it like this. Look, I put it at the end of the strings here, and I can slide it over the bridge. The idea of all mutes, all types of mutes, is that you hold the bridge more in place so that the bridge can't transfer the waves, the sound waves, into the instrument. So this is one way. This is like a fixed mute. I can leave it on my violin and it won't affect the sound when I take it off, and it will mute the violin when I put it on. I'll play it a little bit for you so that you can hear a difference in sound. And apologies for the sound quality, because I'm not sure whether that's as good as I would like it here. So without the mute first. And now I'll play it with the mute. And I guess that you might be able to hear a difference. Now I'm taking this one off, and I'll show you this mute. And this is a hotel mute. So if I go abroad and I practice in my hotel room, it gets a lot softer. This is quite a heavy thing when I play. Let me play without it first again so you can compare. And now I'll put my mute on. I guess you can hear a difference there, isn't it? Now, I used to have another type of mute as well. I can't find it just now. And this is like a black little circle. It does the same thing as this mute. If you go on Amazon or so, or in my shop, you can find them as well as different types of mutes. It is about as muting as this one. And it stays on there as well. And some people just don't like the look of this one so much, so they like a little black circle as well. So you can do that. So now, what are the advantages or disadvantages of playing with a mute? Obviously, sorry, I'm a little bit distracted because she's been new. Thank you. Has put something on there and I don't know what it means, so we'll see. Thank you so much. So the disadvantages of the mute are that it affects the sound quite a great deal, and it does something to your ears because it sounds much more nasal in tone. And also, if you're working hard to develop the sound, and then you start to mute your own sound, you can't exactly hear what you're doing with your bow, what an effect that has on your sound. So you might be able to do two things. And I would first of all make an arrangement with your neighbour and say, is it all right if I play between certain hours out loud? Then I'll play with my mute the rest of the time, because you want to not always play with the mute because it will affect your sound, you see. So do a bit of both, a bit with the mute and a bit without the mute, so that you can still keep on developing your tone, you see. I hope that answered your question. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's more centered. Yeah, really good. And Joe, you have written from Lebanon. It's lovely to see people from Lebanon here as well. Yes, I will save this live YouTube class as a video on YouTube as well. So it's always there for you to check it out afterwards as well. What is much better in pressing the string, tip or pad? That is also a very good question. I'm just asking you if I understand it all right. The tip of your finger is the best way to press the string, but violinists you can always spot because they have very short nails on their left hand. Okay, so your nail needs to be short enough so that you play free from your nail. You see, if you press the string down with your nail, it's uncomfortable, but you get a more sharpish sound. So you want to play I'd call this the pad as well of my fingertip. I guess what you mean is the pad is this section that is not good to play on. So if you play with flat fingers on your pads, see if you can get more on your fingertips like that, and you play like that rather than like that. And that has something to do as well with the way you lift your fingers up. And I'll tell you a little bit about a good technique. So we want to play on our fingertips like that, and we want to pretend we lift our fingers up from the base knuckle, and that's this knuckle. You can do that. You can see it perhaps better like this. Can you see? That is where I lift my fingers up from. If I play from the pads, I can lift it up in many different ways, but my fingers generally are much more stiff, you see. So come up on your fingertips like that, have very short nails, and really curve your fingers around. People are always surprised that I say to them when they play the first finger, make sure that you curl your finger up completely. So don't go sort of half bend when you put your finger on the string, but curl it up even more like that. So you can see that my top joint here of my finger is exactly vertical. It's upright, you see. So I'm hoping that answers your question. Okay. Danielle, what is important to look at when we first buy a violin, when we buy a first violin? That's also a very common question. Lots of people ask me this question. And actually, in my view, the best thing you can do is buy the best quality violin that you can afford. That sounds a bit daft because quite a lot of people will say, but I'm just going to try this to see if it is good for me. And I can understand that, yes, and there is a limit. Some people say, I haven't got much more money, but I want to learn the violin. I buy the most basic violin that there is. But you're going to set yourself up for a bit of trouble there because the cheapest violins aren't set up properly. That means the strings are way too high above the fingerboard. What I mean by that is that the bridge is too high, and therefore you need to make much more of an effort to push the strings down onto the fingerboard. B, the cheaper violins also speak much less clearly to you. So that means that you have to make far more of an effort to get a good sound than in a violin which is a little bit more expensive. So, and that is why I mainly recommend to buy a violin with as much money as you can possibly afford, because you're always going to get that value back in quality sound and ease of playing. And then I'm not even talking about the people in your household who are going to have to listen to that. So just for yourself, you would up the level of the quality of your instrument if you possibly can. And for some people, just owning the cheapest violin that they've got is what they can do. And that's also fine, because you will also learn to play the violin, except if you want to make super fast progress, it will hold you back a little bit. So that is very important to look at when you first buy a violin. Now, when you first buy a violin, the violin and its bow and its case, and sometimes a lot of other accessories all come in one. And that's a big advantage because you've got it all together there. So you've got rosin and sometimes also a shoulder rest and back straps and everything. Some violins have got quite an extensive package. But you have to consider that as you go up in quality a little bit, at some point, the violin and the bow and the case and the rosin and everything else gets sold separately. So that might come a little bit more expensive if you have to buy all those individual things. So that is an advantage of buying a reasonably cheap violin, is that it comes as one package and you've got it all sorted. Otherwise, as a beginner, there are so many questions suddenly to answer, isn't it? What violin am I going to choose? What bow am I going to choose? What kind of case would I like? And it's quite nice when you've got that all sorted for you. I hope that answers your question. Angie. Yes, my sound was very busy. I find this when I record on my phone. How can I record myself to get the true sound? That is a very good question. Now, I've been experimenting with YouTube, and the only way I can make the sound better when I play to you in these live classes is to buy very expensive software. So for now, I haven't yet done that. I have done it for the normal video, so that's why you hear the quality of all the videos on my YouTube channel is a lot better in sound. How can you record yourself to get a true sound is very, very difficult. What you might do is to, maybe you've got this already in your house, is to attach a microphone to your phone. If you record this if you record your own playing on your phone, attach a microphone, and some microphones can even pick up just true sounds and block out all background noises. And then obviously you'll have a much better quality recording. If you want to get any better than that, you're looking at more upmarket recording equipment, unfortunately. I used to work with Skype in the very early days of online learning. Remember, I've already been teaching online since 2012, which was way before everyone else was even thinking about it. So way before the pandemic. And whilst I was working with Skype, they have not been able to sort it out, the sound. In all those years, because these recording facilities are usually geared to the human voice, isn't it? Online conferencing and things. And then they started adapting it for guitars, and guitars are much softer and have a much more limited range than the violin. So it became easier to adapt the Skype software to that. On the violin, we play a lot louder, and we've got massive range between lowest notes and the highest notes, and that's still a big problem. If you have online lessons and you use Zoom, which I do quite a lot, I do all my online lessons on Zoom nowadays, you can set the sound to original sound. And that means that the software doesn't adapt your violin sound to the human voice, because obviously Zoom is also still geared to online conferencing, so the spoken word in the first place. But if you set it to original sound, it is not too bad how it picks up the violin sound. But you can't do that when you record your own playing on your phone. Sorry, I can't be more helpful on that. I hope that helps. Mr. Nature, welcome to this channel. Big shout out to Mr. Nature. Can you teach me Carlos Bell's song, please? I'll make a note of that and I'll look into that. It's not something that comes to mind straight away, but I will see what I can do. Kenji, thank you very much. Joe, I'm 16 years old and I started playing the violin last month. How much it would take me to become to be able to play on any song? Well, I would hope that if you play for a month, that you could start to learn your first songs fairly soon. I'm not sure if you are learning with my Suzuki method. You can go on there on my Suzuki book 1, Learn to Play the Violin in 30 Days, I think the course is called. So I would hope that within the month you would be able to play a song. So good luck with your playing. Alternatively, if you're not following that course, go on to the course that's called, it is my improvisation course, and that was a lockdown course. Gosh, what is that called? It'll come to me in a moment, or someone might remind me. Sounds a bit silly, doesn't it? It was the course that I recorded for lockdown, so a violin tune a day. Okay, thanks, Angie, for your note there. Daniel, I know we can't compare money from Canada and UK, so I meant the type of material for the fingerboard. Is this about what kind of violin we're looking for? Well, the top of the violin should be maple, and the fingerboard should be ebony, but you may know that I've been reviewing the cheapest violins on Amazon, and you might find that comparison on my new website, which is violinplayercity.com. I'm just writing it in the chat box right now. And to my great astonishment, there are violins around that have plastic fingerboards. So this bit where you put your fingers on is made from plastic. Now, that doesn't sound like a great idea to me, because plastic is flexible and you can squeeze it and it will move, and we don't want that for a fingerboard. So please, please, please stay away from plastic fingerboards, or plastic tailpieces for that matter, this end as well. There's a lot of tension that is on the strings when the strings are tightened properly. You can't believe this, but there is about 80 kilos of pressure here on the bridge. So you can imagine if this is plastic here, your fingerboard, your tailpiece, excuse me, that is not a good idea. So stay clear of all the other materials apart from ebony and maple. I hope that's what you mean. Joe has watched all my Suzuki teaching videos. I'm in awe, Joe, but you've played a month or so, haven't you? So go back and practice them even more. Whilst this says learn to play the violin in 30 days, you want to consolidate all the techniques before you go on from one lesson on to the next. So in real life, it will take a little bit longer than 30 days, I hope. But good luck with your practice, because it sounds like you're really into it. So you're doing great. Hello, Richard. Good to hear from you as well. I just learned the song See You Again. I'm impressed. I'm impressed too. That is a great, great deal of playing. Well done, you. Good to hear from you here. So can I state once more, if you want to support this channel, go on info@proamstrings.com on PayPal, and you can support this channel there. Any more questions? Let's see. I started with my teacher learning the violin with Paganini book volume 1. That is an interesting one, because I don't know that book. Paganini book volume 1. All right. And Stephanie, hello, Stephanie. How many hours should we practice as a beginner? I've briefly already addressed that in this lesson. And when you first start off to play the violin, you might start with 5 minutes and then put the violin down again, because you will feel your shoulders and they get really tired when you first start to do that. But then as you progress, you will build up stamina, and you find very soon, after a week or two, that you can play for longer. So double that then, go to 10 minutes. And then if you feel you've yet built up more stamina, keep on going, doubling it, and go to 20 minutes. And it just depends on how strong you are. I mean, I think if you are a teenager, you can play for a bit longer than when you're in your 80s, you see. So you have to go with the flow a little bit. So long as you play frequently, that means a little bit every day or a couple of times a week, you are going to make really good progress. And remember also that when you practice, as soon as your thoughts start to drift, say you practice for half an hour and you start thinking about the shopping that you're going to do later, or the book that you want to read this evening, then you might as well stop practicing, because you are not practicing with your full focus. So there is a limit to what the body can do, the shoulders and your arms, and there is also a limit to what the mind can do. If you feel your mind wander, take a break, go and have a coffee, and then come back to it again, okay? So quite often people say to me, oh, I've practiced for 3 hours, and you think, I just can't believe you. So it's much more effective practicing 3 times 5 minutes than it is 3 times an hour, sometimes for some people. Okay. Right. Now, any more questions? I have got one question that I would like to answer, which is another question that someone has put below one of the videos. So I might address that here, because people might also watch this video when it stays on the YouTube channel later on. People can't make it sometimes in the middle of the day. And that question is, when should I use the 4th finger and when should I use the open string? And that is a very valid question. So when we play open strings when we play a note in a line that goes up. And we play fourth fingers generally when we play on a line of notes that stay on the same string. So apologies again, I'm going to play and I'll show you the difference. So let's say I'm playing an A major scale and I'm going from the A string onto the E string. When I go in a line that goes, when I play a line of notes that goes up, I'm using the open string. So I'm going. I can show you the difference. If I played that with the fourth finger. Sounds much clearer with the open string, doesn't it? So when you play a line up and you continue after the open string on the higher string, that's when you use the open string. However, if you start on the A string and your tune after the E carries on the A string, that's when you use the fourth finger. And this way, I keep all my notes on the A string, and it means that the timbre of my section of music that I play remains the same. Now I'll play it the wrong way, and I'll play an open E string and then go back on the A string. Listen what the difference is. Versus this. You can hear when I play the fourth finger, all the notes have got the same style. And when I played the open E string, while I played all the other notes on the A string, that E was just blasting out a little bit too loud compared with the other strings, you see. Now then, open strings sound good, pressed strings sound scratchy. Okay. Is that what you heard? David, this is your question. Open strings sound good, pressed strings sound scratchy. Is that what you heard just now, or is that a question because you've heard it in your own playing? Please, can you expand a little bit on that? Kenji, do you have some recommended daily exercises? I've been playing some keys up and down. Minor keys give me some headaches, skipping the second finger to third, depending on playing upwards. 1 out of 2. I'm waiting for the second half to write. Do I recommend daily exercises? Funnily enough, yes, I do. Own play. Okay. I'll come to that, David, in a second. However, I find it hard to find some music note sheets with some exercises. Oh, okay. Hi, Genji. I'm following you here. Now, let me look up that course that I was thinking about. Just hold on a second. And I'll show you. Because this is a whole class of videos that you don't need a book for. You can just go. It's called the Virtual Violin Practice Play Along. Let me see. I'll put a link to that. Hang on a second. I'm just finding it. Finding a copy. So if you want to play along without any music, just daily exercises, find this one. And there's lots of daily exercises to do on that. And this is actually a course of mine that I recorded over lockdown. And I thought, how can I just make life a lot easier for a lot of people? I had a bit of time on my hands, of course, as well. That helped as well. So that you don't need to do the heavy lifting of getting your violin out, getting all your books out, practicing your scales and arpeggios and all your stuff. Just practice this along, and you'll make really good progress. It's a long course, 40 lessons, if I say it right, off by heart. But that will set you up properly to go through all the basics. Every lesson you can just play along with me. Funnily enough, even with my advanced pupils, I practice bow warm-ups with open strings quite a lot, because even at the more advanced level, it is a good idea to review your bow hold and your left hand hold and the way you bow open strings as well. So if you don't know what to do, by all means, play open strings all the time as your warm-ups. So David, I'm coming back to your question. You said your open strings sound good, but the pressed strings sound scratchy. I imagine that your question is, what can I do about it? Good question, because it will help quite a lot of people with the same issue. Okay, so when my open strings sound good, but my notes sound scratchy when I play my fingers on the string, 9 times out of 10, it is because you take your attention away from the bow hand. Obviously, the bow is the voice of the violin. It makes the sound. Okay, and it's fine. Most people can play quite a nice singing sound on an open string. But as soon as you place your fingers, your attention goes to the left hand and the bow's left alone to go on automatic pilot. And that happens with quite a lot of people, that you lose the contact of the bow as soon as you put the fingers on, because all of your brain space, as it were, goes to the fingers. Now, that is a matter of time. You will develop the experience so that you can keep the bow going whilst you play your fingers. What you can do in the meantime is play your fingers really slowly, or double up every note. So you play A, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, where you focus on your first playing of the same finger on the left hand, and the second playing you focus on the bow, because it's simply that we have to do two things in one go, where the brain can't cope, do both at the same time, give both aspects of playing the same amount of attention. So I'm hoping that will help you a little bit. But as I said, it comes with experience as well. So give it another 3 to 6 months and you'll find this aspect of your playing a lot easier. Yeah, automatic pilot. You make me laugh now. Thanks, Richard, for this comment. Yeah, automatic pilot takes me across the bridge. Absolutely right. It happens in a lot of people as well. So automatic pilot doesn't work as well on the violin, and that is why we always split our difficulties, isn't it? You'll hear me say, if you followed any of my courses, that I say just focus on one thing first and forget about the other aspect, because you've got the left hand, then you've got the notes to read, then you've got your tune to remember, you've got the rhythm to remember, then you've got to bow, then you want to think about your stance and your balance and your whole posture. So sort out one thing at a time, because I can't multitask 3 or 4 different things, and most people can't, you see. So if that is you, that's perfectly all right. Just take your time sorting out maybe first the bow. That might well be the best way forward. Sort out your bow first, and then once you're more experienced with your bow, and then you add some more left fingers, and then you combine those two, leave them together for a bit before you start to think, okay, have I got the right bow hold, or is my wrist nice and straight? You see, one thing at a time usually works for most people. Now, we're coming to the end of an hour. I just can't believe that we've been talking for an hour, and I'm going to thank you for all of your very useful questions. So I've really enjoyed that. I hope you have too. Remember, you can support this channel in the channel banner at the top. When you go to the homepage of the Pro Am Strings Violin School banner, at the top there is where it says Violin School, there is a button that says support this channel. Please, guys, do if you can, because it just allows me to make more videos. Subscribe to the channel. Also visit my website, www.proamstrings.com, and sign up. Oh, that hasn't gone through, has it? Is that it? Yes. And if you subscribe to the newsletter, you get automatic notifications whenever there is something going on, like a live class like this one. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel as well, you automatically get a message when the new videos are released, so also when the new live classes are planned. So lovely to see you here all today. I look forward to seeing you again very soon. And for those of you that have asked it, yes, this video will stay on my channel. Take care and good luck with your violin playing. Bye.